Todd, I appreciate you joining me. So, Todd Crabtree,
No
you
problem.
launched pretty recently. Glad that you were able to hop on and just kind of share your experience. Like I was saying before, a lot of new firm owners, a lot of aspiring firm owners just really want to see what other people are doing because there's so many different ways you can do this. And so, yeah, looking forward to hearing the way that you're doing it right now. And that might even change, right, over the years. But tell me, yeah, just short introduction of yourself and what led you to opening up your own firm.
Okay. Yeah, sure. So I'm Todd Crabtree. I'm based out of Dallas. I started in Las Vegas at a small firm called Piercy Bowler, Taylor and Kern. By small, I mean probably 70 people. So it was a big, small firm.
Yeah.
And then I worked there for about 5 years, moved to Dallas, joined Whitley Penn, which is a top 30 firm, something like that. Was there about a year and then ended up at EY for almost 10 years, about 9 years. And so just last year, February, I guess this February is when I went live with my own firm. When I at EY over a couple of years before I launched, I just started thinking about, hey, maybe I should consider launching my own firm. But I was a little nervous because at EY I was working with really big clients, and I hadn't done a lot of personal tax returns, and so it just kind of made me nervous. Of I have no side business, I have no small client experience in the last 10 years. I want to do it, but how am I going to support my family if I do it? So, I decided, whatever, I felt like I needed to do it. And so I just said, let's do it. And once I made that decision, things just kind of fell into place to make it work out for me.
Yeah. Yeah. So you said, so there was no kind of like side hustle start. Like it was, I got to jump full on into this. I don't have time
Yeah,
to
I
build it up on
literally
the
wasn't
side.
allowed to have a side hustle.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
EY audited my tax returns, and if
Yeah.
I had a couple of clients and they were like, "You're in violation, we're going to fine you,"
Oh
and
man.
so yeah,
Yeah.
I was like,
So
okay.
yeah, that's crazy. So, and I feel like there's a lot of people too in that space where they've got big firm experience, but it's a lot different. I got my
Hmm.
experience. I mean, I started in a top 20 firm, but on the audit side, not the tax side. And then when I switched to tax, I went to the complete opposite. I went from top 20 to local firm with just me and another guy. And so it was the complete
Right.
other end of the spectrum. And yeah, not doing taxes at a big firm, I can imagine that you're seeing part of the tax return, or maybe you're seeing the whole tax return, but what you're looking
Hmm.
at is way different than a 1040 and a Schedule C or a small S corporation, and they're dealing with
Yeah.
different stuff. So how'd you overcome that, right? Like that lack of confidence in, like, I don't know if I can handle the small business because that's not what I'm used to.
Well, it's funny because that's kind of over time I realized that's more where I wanted to be. Like a couple years ago, I just started thinking, you know what? Even if I make partner at EY, I'm still just an employee. Like I'm still
Mm.
going to do whatever they tell me to do for as long as they tell me to do it. You know, I'm just an
And for as
employee,
many
and I'm
hours as
working
they tell me to
for
do it. Yeah.
exactly, and I'm working for big companies, and everyone I'm working with is also employees, and we're all just kind of doing what people tell us to do, and we don't have a lot of say in the matter, and so that kind
Mm.
of started it, and then honestly, part of it was I just felt like God told me, hey, you need to consider this, like I'm a pretty religious person, and I just had this feeling like you should consider starting your own firm, and I was just like, yeah, right. And over a couple of years, I just started thinking about it. Then I started talking to people, friends that had started their own firms and were much smaller, and they were giving me encouragement. Oh, you'll do great. It'll be
Mm.
great. And I was like, yeah, but I have these concerns, and it really came down to, you know, I just started thinking about it. I was like, sometimes you just have to take that step. You just have to step into the dark a little bit and see what happens, right?
Yeah.
Uh, I grew up, my dad used to always tell me the Crabtree way is to work harder, not smarter. And I was always like, well, I want to work smarter, not harder. And so sometimes I would analyze things to death. And so for me, it was kind of like, look, you feel like God's told you to do this. You feel like you should do this. Your friends are telling you you could be successful. I'm just going to have to go for it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I did. And I had some things lined up, and then they fell through. I had a friend who maybe was going to give me some contract work, and I had another friend who's going to sell me a few clients, and both of those things didn't quite work out the way I thought they would. and I'd actually talked to a recruiter nearby, and he just said, maybe you should consider doing contract work with EY. I bet they would love to. And I was like, oh, I never thought of that. And so I reached out to my boss, and I'd already told him I was planning on leaving. And I said, hey, would you be open to me sticking around and, helping transition and just do some contract work because I'm available? And they were like, done, whatever you want,
Yeah,
And I was like,
that's
oh,
awesome.
well, that helps take some of the, how do I support my family, right? I'm married. I've got 5 kids, and it was like, how am I going to replace this income from
Yeah.
zero? So
Yeah. Oh man, so
I
many
just
things in there.
decided, let's give it a shot.
Yeah. I love it. When I switched from audit to tax, it was again, big firm, big clients, $20 million construction contractors, and you're dealing with the accounting department. And they're like, we hate it when you come here because you make our lives miserable for a
Yeah,
week. And
right.
it's like, sorry. And then, you switch to tax and it's like, okay, now I'm actually, uh, you know, you're on their side helping them. Right.
Mhm.
But then going to a small firm, not only was it the switch from audit to tax, but it was the switch from dealing with the staff to dealing with the actual taxpayer, right? The actual
Mhm.
client, the actual business owner. And it was just so much more rewarding. And then, the flip side of that too, kind of what you were saying about, I mean, my faith is very important to me. We were with a ministry before I launched my firm. I was in tax, and then I left that to join a nonprofit ministry where we had to raise our own support. And trusting God for that was huge. and
Mhm.
so it was almost like, well, I've been asking people for support for our ministry for 7 years. And now at least
Right.
I have something tangible to give them back in return, like a tax return, right? So,
Yeah, sure.
but that's where kind of what you were saying, right? It's like, okay, I feel like God's leading me in this direction.
Mhm.
I've sought counsel and talked to other people who I know trust God too, and they say that they feel like, they agree God's leading in this direction. Then the opportunity lines up, right?
Mhm.
It fits kind of what I'm doing, and it doesn't contradict anything in the word. And so it's like, okay, if all 5 of those things line up, I can feel very confident this is the way that God's leading me to go. And if that's the case, right, he'll provide. Like I've seen him do it a
Yeah.
million times, right? He's always
Yep.
provided. And so that was, because I had to I had to jump full time into it. Like I couldn't do part time work. That ministry, the way that they're set up, you have to raise support through them, and you're not allowed to have outside income. So I had to quit and go, cold turkey,
Yeah.
right from the
Yeah, it was funny
start.
because when I went to quit, we'd had some team member transition, and we were talking with I work with a really big real estate investor here in Dallas at EY, and we had lost some of our team, and they were asking like, what's our future plans? And so
Mm,
I'm sitting down with the director partner, and we're discussing like the future goals of the engagement. While the while I'm thinking I'm probably leaving in a month or two, and so I finally just said, look,
yeah,
here's what's going on with me. I've got some opportunities ahead of me. I'm thinking about taking them. And it was just like, he was just like, oh no, what do we do? Right. And so I kind of just I was like, I'm not going to sneak around. I'm not going to try and do anything. I respect you. I think you respect me.
yeah,
I think this is what's best for me, but it's going to hurt for a minute, And so
right,
he was just like, well, I'll support you. And then from that point, it made it a lot easier to transition to like, hey, what about some contract work? Because it wasn't just like out of the blue, like, hey, I'm going to quit unless you do this, this, or this. It was kind of
yeah,
like, I'm thinking about this. I've been upfront about it, but maybe we can help each other. And
yeah,
so, and then I talked to the kind of the head partner of our group, and he was like, hey, why don't you just make EY your biggest client? We'll pay you, you come up with a number and we'll get it approved and go from there. So
yeah. That's awesome. And you never know how that conversation is going to go, right? Like sometimes, they
exactly.
might be like, that's all
Yeah.
right.
Hey,
You can
today's your
quit
last
today,
day.
right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
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 It wasn't when I launched my CPA firm. It was actually when I left the CPA firm that I was planning on purchasing and joined the campus ministry that I was a part of. And I told him like, hey, I feel like God's leading in this other direction. And he's
Mhm.
like, oh, great. And then like a month later, I showed up to work one day. He was like, hey, I hired your replacement. You're done. And I was like, okay.
Okay.
So
Shoot,
that
this
did
is
not go
real.
that well.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think he just kind of told me it was fine while he hired somebody without me knowing it, so that he
Hmm.
could just transition
Yeah.
seamlessly, but that was unfortunate. We also didn't plan to match today with the blue, but it worked out.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
So how long's it been? This was your first tax season, right? When'd you launch? How long's
Yes,
it been?
sir. I launched in February. So, I mean, where are we at? 8 months, something like that.
Okay.
So,
Yeah. So no launching before tax season to ramp up. It was just, you're going to do it right in the middle of it. Or at the beginning.
yeah, I started really considering it in like about this time, October, November.
Okay.
But it was just kind of like nothing was working out the way I thought it would. And how am I going to keep providing for my family?
Yeah.
If I just quit, especially if I quit in October with no income as I try and ramp up, it was just like,
Yeah.
that was a little scary and held me back a little bit. And so I was talking to a friend and I called it soft launch this year, where it's like, I know contracting is going to probably be about half my work. And so I'll use the other half to kind of try some things out and see what I do and don't want to do. Because that was the other thing. I wasn't really sure. Do I want to work with just small clients? Do I want to continue working with big clients, build a team and work with the team? Or do I want to do it by myself? And so I just didn't know the answer to that.
Yeah.
So that was just another reason why it was like, well, the only way you're going to really find that answer is if you do it.
Right.
And so I launched. I got a bunch of small clients, realized by the beginning of April, it was like, oh, maybe this isn't what I want to do.
Okay.
Like,
yeah. So that was my next
going
question.
in the direction.
Yeah. And that may change, right? But that was my next question.
Yeah.
So what's the type of work? What's the type of client that you did? And then if that's not what you're going to continue doing, what are you going to shift to?
So from the start, I've always wanted to work with businesses. Right? I've never had that big of a desire to do 1040 only clients. I have some, and they were, they took me a lot longer to do a personal 1040 than a business return, because that's not where my past recent experience was. And so I worked with a lot of solo business owners, a couple of bigger, $2, $3, $4, $5 million companies, but most of them were just kind of in the same situation I was, where they were just starting, or they are a year or two in, or they were, or maybe they'd heard on the internet they should be an S corp, and so they became an S corp before they had any revenue, and just those kind of clients. And so it was a lot of teaching and instructing and trying to help people, and those clients are fun. I think I get a lot of value out of them, but they don't generally want to pay a lot in tax fees, compliance, preparation fees either.
Yeah.
And so it got to the point where between my contract work and my busy season work, I was working 80, 90, 100 hours a week. And I was like,
oh, wow. Yeah.
The last time I worked 100 hours a week, I quit. And it was like, and so after April 15th, I mean, I took basically a month off of just like, is this my future? Can I live with this? Do I need to pivot? What do I need to do? And it's like, well, I really feel like I'm supposed to do this. So now I need to figure out how I can do it in a way that works for me going forward. And so
figure that out.
I stopped taking, well, I'm still working on it, right? I figured I want to maybe level up a little in the clients and grow. I decided rather than being a solo firm, I do want to grow, because I really enjoy the most training other people and working with teams. And, I obviously don't do that by myself. I can help train my clients, but that's pretty limited. And so decided that, I want to build it to where I can have a team. I want to work with businesses, and then I'll do their personal returns if I do their businesses. And so I stopped taking, 1040 only, and have gone from there. And so now it's a question of, okay, how do I get from where I am to where I want to be? So,
right. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm guessing some of that is firing clients too, right?
Yeah, there's some of that. And
it's such a negative term, it sounds like, but telling them that they're not the right fit, right? Like, it's best for them and you, because, it's going to be best for them as well. Yep. They need to find somebody that's a better fit.
There's a lot of clients that I really enjoy working with, but in the back of my mind, I think you're not where I'm going.
Right.
And so it's like, I enjoy working with you. I think we enjoy each other, but maybe it's in our best interest both, if maybe we both pivot. And so I'll help you maybe find someone else, but I haven't had those conversations yet, but
plan on it.
I have had that thought of like, yeah, this is probably in my future. And it's like, all right, who is the keeper? Who, it's not like who's good enough to make the cut. It's kind of like who matches where I'm going,
Yeah, the right profile, right? Because like you said, and that's usually what, I mean, honestly, that's been the hardest thing for me is like, it's like, okay, I don't really want to do this work And then when I actually start looking at the names, I'm like, but I'll still do it for them.
I've had that time. Like this guy, absolutely just a small 1040,
Yeah.
really nice guy. Really enjoy talking with him.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it
That's the
doesn't line it
hardest
up at
thing.
all. But
I mean,
yeah,
there's even ones where it's like the person really frustrates me because it's a simple return, it's a small fee, but they have a million questions. And I'm like, okay, it's not worth it. I'll price them out, or I'll just tell them it's not a good fit. Right. And then we'll meet together and I'm like, oh, they're so nice. I want to help them. And nobody else is going to help them.
Exactly. No one can help him like I'm going to help him.
Right. Yeah. So, you end up doing that sometimes, but yeah, that's, I mean, that's something everyone's got to do. Right. I mean, yeah. Am I going to do whatever walks through the door? Probably not. Maybe the first year, right? Maybe the second year, but not forever. Right. Like you're going to get to
and
a
that's
point.
what my friend kept saying, right? You should just take whoever, take anyone you can,
Yeah.
just get the revenue, right? It's like, well, I already know this isn't a fit, so why?
Yeah. Yeah. And that I kind of took the opposite approach. I was like, yeah, I'll do it. Unless, I knew I didn't have any experience in it, right? I didn't take work that I knew I couldn't do, but it was like, yeah, I'll do whatever. And then I just slowly started narrowing it down to where I was like, okay, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm not doing that anymore. I'm not doing that anymore. And that's where kind of what I said at the beginning too, right? Like there's so many different ways to do this that it's cool to hear like the different ways people do it. Some people just start out right from the beginning. I'm only going to do this. And they just wait for those people to come around. And I was like, okay, like the only thing I'm going to do is pay my bills. And so I'm going to take whatever as long as I can do it. Again, don't take on work you don't know how to do. And I've never been tempted to do that because I like sleeping at night even more than I like paying my bills, honestly. And so I've never done that. But I did take on work I didn't necessarily want to do and have slowly, okay, my bills are being paid. So it's much easier to say no to work now that the bills are being paid, right?
Yeah. I've had clients beg me, I have a nonprofit and we haven't filed in years. We need to, I can't find anyone. And it's like, and I'm like, fine, I'll get you current, but then I'm finding someone else. It's
those are one of the ones that I did originally. I was doing 990s and I was like, I hate these. And so I stopped doing them.
Yeah. I've done them and I know I don't like them. And I have a friend who likes them, but he won't do them until they're current. So I'm like, I already have the transition, but I have to get there. So
I still do 990 EZs for some parent teacher associations. The EZ is not bad. And the parent teacher associations, they call it an audit. It's not a financial audit, right? But like the state comes in and make sure that the accounts reconciled and stuff. So it's like, okay, I'll do those. I got about 4 of them. I'll do those. But anytime I'm like, what's your revenue? And they're like, you need the full 990. There's too many non-financial questions on that thing. I don't want to touch it. Like
it's like 10 pages of non-financial questions.
Yeah. And that's before you get to any of the extra schedules that you might have to do, right? Like it's just like, this is ridiculous. I hate those. So are you in virtual? Are you virtual, in person, both? What does that look like?
Virtual. It's funny. I'm in Texas. Most of my clients are not in Texas. Like I probably have just a few in Texas. And so I've started meeting a lot of people locally and they're like, well, how do I do I come to your house? It's like, no, we can just use a portal. I mean, if you want to meet, I can come to your business or we can just meet at a shop and talk or whatever, or just do a video call. But I was looking the other day, I've got clients from New Hampshire to Florida and Washington to California and everywhere in between. It's just like all over the US.
So. Yeah, that's so much fun too. I did a heat map one time. Like I took all the addresses, I put it into a heat map, and it was like 38 different states that I had clients in.
Yeah.
Now that's another one of those
35.
things. Yeah. I mean, I'm in Florida, you're in Texas, so there's another, another thing that I've done is I haven't fired clients, but the new clients. My survey will kick them out if they're not in one of the 9 no income tax states.
No income tax states, yep.
It
is easier.
It's just like every time I go to do a return, to review a return, I'm like, all right, I'm done. And then I'm like, oh, crap, they got a state. Like, oh, man, I thought I was done. And so it's one of those things where I'm like, oh, it's so much more pleasant when I'm doing one where I don't have to even worry about the state. So any new client, basically. And then, I made some exceptions, right? I'm from North Carolina. I know that state really well. It's actually a very easy state too. So it's like, okay, we'll leave that one open. We'll leave a couple other ones open. So I've left a few open, but mostly turned off. the other states. That's funny though
I can
too,
see
that
the
people are
appeal in
asking
that.
you.
Yeah.
I've met at coffee shops, I've met at Chick-fil-A, but most people, I started charging for the in-person appointments to push more people to Zoom.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, my first tax season was COVID, so it was 2020, and so it was like
Right.
after that, like everyone's willing to do Zoom. So,
Yep.
I've only had a few people who are like, "Well, you don't have in person?" I'm like, "No, sorry." Like, it's fine. We can hop on a Zoom call. But I do offer in person, and I've had a few people who are like, "Okay, I'll pay for the in person meeting just to see you face to face, make sure you're a real human, and then we'll do Zoom from here on out." And it's like, all right, that's fine. But like you, it's like it's starting to shift a little bit. But the majority of my clients, the first couple of years, were definitely not in Florida. And now through like Google Maps, I have like a Regis co-working space. So through Google Maps and stuff like that, it started to shift where I've got a good amount of local clients too.
Yeah.
But what about, so your team, right? What's your team, Todd? Who's on, who's the
Team
staff?
Todd, that's it.
Just you, right? No contract work yet at this point either. Well, you're contracting, but you haven't sent any work out. You're doing every invoice that goes out, every phone call that gets made, you're doing it all, right?
Doing it all.
Awesome. How many clients are yours this year? How many clients? Do you have the number?
I was just looking at my tracker. I had 95, but I think it's probably about 10 less than that. So some of them were like one client had 5 or 6 returns and that kind of thing.
I count the number of returns.
Number of returns, I had 95, but then probably like 6 or 7 of those didn't actually end up happening. They told me it was a return, and then we get into it. It's like, no, this is a disregarded entity. We don't file.
Yeah. And where'd you find the first client? Where'd it come from?
So I had a buddy who had a firm, and he was running an event called Launch Your Firm. Ronnie Withager, I think you've talked to him before, right? And I was at his event, and he was like, "I've got too many clients." He said, "Would you consider buying a book, part of my book?" And I was like, "That's interesting." And I was like, "Yeah, maybe not." And then when I decided, you know what, I think I'm going to do this, I called him up and I was like, "Hey, were you serious?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, I could carve out some clients for you." And so he carved out a few clients, and then I just kind of started putting the word out a little bit. And my first, non-family client was actually a local. I had a friend who's a real estate broker, and I was talking to him, and one of his brokers, his real estate agents, was looking for a client or looking for a tax guy. And so he introduced her to me, and we, talked, and she signed on, and that was my first client. And, it was kind of like, oh, now what? How do I onboard you? How do I get a contract? How do I, all this stuff is like, shoot, I got to create a bunch of documents here.
That's why I like kind of the growing because it's only one, right?
I literally still have my
time
personal
to figure that
Gmail.
out, right?
It's like, okay, I was like, okay, send it to my Gmail, and I'm in the process of creating my work email. And so, I mean, she still sends stuff to my Gmail, and then I just forward it.
Well, that's because so I think I landed around 115 the first year, but I did launch for earlier. Like I launched in November, started getting the word out in November. And then Logan and Claire, I talked to them from Vivify. They said they got to 100. Well, that was their goal, and they said they met it. They might have made it past that, but they got somewhere, I think, around 100. And so it's kind of interesting. I'll have to ask more people that to see if like maybe 100 is like the average first year, that people can count on, right? And I found, same with them, same with me, same as what you just said. It came from my own network, right? It didn't come from an ad. It didn't come from, something. No, it came from people I reached out to saying like, "Hey, I do this. If you need anything, just let me know." Yeah. And then,
honestly, my biggest referral source is other accountants. Like there's so many accountants. I got some from you. I got some from a bunch of friends, right? There's so many firms at capacity.
Yep.
And they're just like, they don't have anyone to bounce things to.
Yeah.
It's like, hey,
either at capacity or something comes up, right? So again, I mean, I just talked to Claire and Logan. So they do what we would consider the simpler returns, right? And so anyone that comes in with something they don't do, I mean, they don't do Schedule C, they don't do
Yeah.
Schedule E, they don't do any K1s. And so if something like that comes in, they're putting together a network of people to be able to refer to.
Right.
And the one that I sent to you, right? I just,
Yep.
I can do them, but I hate partnership returns, so I don't.
Yeah.
And, we found out on a call a couple months ago, like Todd likes partnership
Right.
returns. So I was like, I
I
already
love
know who to
partnership.
contact because
Right.
here's a client that I didn't know had a partnership. I just found out they have a partnership. Let me send it to Todd. He'll do that, and then I can,
Yeah.
take care of the rest of it. So yeah, I mean,
Yeah, and that
that's
was a great client too. So thank you. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Being able
I just
to,
talked to him the other day. Yeah.
oh, did you connect with them again?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that, that partnership return will continue to need to be done for the foreseeable future. I don't see them getting out of that anytime soon. So,
Correct.
yeah, being able to
Yeah.
take on work from other accountants is huge.
Yeah. One thing you mentioned earlier about, you mentioned pricing, right? And so
Yeah.
I remember when I started, I listened to a ton of people who'd launched their own firms, and they said one thing I wish I would have done when I started was price higher, right?
Yeah.
And so that's what I did. And everyone I talked to, I was like, look, my minimum is 1,500, right? I'm coming from EY. I'm preparing, statements of work for $1 million, $2 million.
Yeah.
1,500 doesn't seem very big number to me, right? And so I'd tell them, all right, my minimum's 1,500, and they're just like, bye.
Yeah.
It was just like I never heard back from them, and I remember asking you about it, and you were like, yeah, that may be true, but those people had to get there, right? And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
maybe you start lower and build to it. And so once I started went a little bit lower, then it was like, okay, and then I got more comfortable how figuring out how to price, because at first I was just like, I don't know, you know,
Yeah.
1,500 minimum is just easy to say, right? Let's just call it
Yeah.
1,500, move on, right? Next year I'll figure out like what the work really took and a price appropriately. So
Yeah. I mean, I think that's huge too, because that's where, and you're the first one. So everyone, I see a ton of people out there saying like, I wish I had priced higher, wish I had priced higher. I haven't seen anyone yet who says, I'm glad I priced higher, right? Like I haven't seen anyone who did and it worked. I haven't seen anyone other than what you just said where they did and it didn't work. All I ever see is they started low, they wish they had started higher. And I'm just sitting there thinking like, that's great, but you don't know that that would have worked out. Like had you priced higher, you may not have gotten enough of a foundation, like, right? Like had you started out higher, the clients would have come in slower, guaranteed.
Absolutely.
And could you have waited it out, or would you
That's
have had
the
to go
key.
back to your other job, right? And so it's like you can't go back and say that it would have worked out. Like you're rewriting history. That's not possible. So, and then, I don't think you had this issue, but also if you may not have the confidence to ask for that number yet either, right? But you get a bunch of yeses at 500 and you move it to 750 and you keep getting yeses, and then you move it to 1,000 and you get less, but you've already got that foundation. It's way easier to increase pricing that way. I find, I think, and that's the way
I
I've
had
done
a client at a couple $1 million business, and I looked at, they sent me their tax returns. I looked at them, priced them out, gave them a quote, and they just ghosted me for a week or two. And then she called me and she was like, I just got to know, like, you're double what I've ever paid. And I was like, I honestly priced low, right?
Yeah.
I went lower than I thought it should have been.
Yeah.
And she was freaking out, like, this is double, right? So I just finally, I said, look, I went lower than I really think it should be, but let me just ask you one question. Why are you looking for another tax person?
Right. Yeah.
And she just paused and thought. I said, so I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll knock a couple hundred off it this first year. Next year it's going to go up, but let's just see how it works. And then she's like, okay, let's do it. Right. And so we did it. She has referred me a ton of work
Oh,
since
wow.
then.
Yeah.
And just, and I introduced her to a friend who's a bookkeeper, and we both back and forth a bunch of work, and she just calls me all the time. She's like, talk to Todd. He's my guy. I trust him. And where the whole thing started with a like, are you kidding me? These prices are ridiculous, to like, hey, you need to talk to Todd. Right.
Yeah.
And so that gave me a lot of confidence, because that was just like, that was probably February, right after I'd launched, February, March. And it was just like, I remember calling my friend, like, what do I do? And he's like, don't do anything. Just,
That's huge. I mean,
don't bid against yourself.
Yeah. One of the years, it wasn't even like giant, but it was like, okay, there was an increase, and, client left, and about 2 years later, which was this tax season, they came back, right?
Mhm.
They're like, hey, person I went to, it's not really working out. I want to come back. And I was like, okay. I had significantly increased prices since she left. And
Yeah.
so I sent the new quote. She
Mhm.
signed it within a minute.
Oh wow.
Because, it's like, yeah, there's not, yeah. What else is out there, right? Like people,
Mhm.
especially once they see like, okay, you're right. Like I can't find anyone else that's going to do as good of a job for even the same price,
Yeah.
right? Like if you got good customer service and you're willing to talk to people and do the work well, yeah. So what? Let's see. What's your tech stack? What are you using for processes, tax prep?
I use CCH Access Tax. Um, I use Go Systems my whole career. I was not going to pay for Go Systems as a solo, but
Yeah.
the friend that I got some book of business with, he used CCH Access, and so he could just transfer the locators to me, which was nice. Um, I struggled with it at first. Never, I'd used Pro Systems for a year, and so it's very similar. But I like that it was online, and I like
Mm-hmm.
that it could do any return I needed to do. Right? Everyone's like, Drake's great, it's cheap, it can't do everything I want it to, but I can work it out. And I was like, well, I'm planning on
Moving up,
probably
yeah,
doing
and
clients
complexity,
that
yeah,
are bigger in complexity, and I am used to being able to manipulate the software how I want. And so for me, it was like, I don't want to invest in learning a new tech software and then changing in 2 years. And so I was like, I'm just going to bite the bullet and do it now. And
yeah.
so it probably took me 6 good months to be really comfortable in the software.
Mm.
And so I went back and reviewed some early returns I prepared in February that I'm still waiting on information. And it was like, oh man, this same document's in here like 2 or 3 different times.
Yeah,
And so it was just like, I just didn't know where things were and I had to figure them out. But that's why you review. So,
yeah, yep.
and
So
otherwise, I
how?
use Box for
Oh yeah,
Box.com
okay, yep,
for my portal and my signatures. And so it's really just those.
yeah.
I'm
Just tax
actually
prep and
looking at
box.
switching to Canopy in the next month.
Okay.
Um,
So how
which
this year? How'd you keep track of where stuff was in process and what was done and what
hmm,
wasn't done?
my good old Excel tracker.
Yeah.
It's funny because in my 10 years at EY, we worked with clients that had 800 returns.
Oh
We tracked it
gosh.
all in Excel.
Really?
Like we did it in an Excel tracker, and so I basically just built the same tracker and added
That's
some few
crazy.
more things that I liked, and I was just I always felt nervous, like I can't believe that we're a billions of dollar company and I'm literally using Excel to track $1 million clients' work.
Yeah.
You
I
know,
would have never guessed
like
that.
don't we have something? And so, but I really would like something that's a little more automated. And I
Yeah.
looked into TaxDome, we talked about it, and I just thought if I want to level up, I would probably grow out of it. And so, looking at different something a little bigger. So,
Yeah. Yeah. I used a Google Sheet the first year, and it was just the name, the due date, and a drop down of what status they were
mhm,
in, right?
mhm,
And then I moved to Evernote, then Asana, then TaxDome.
mhm.
And, you know, that first year it was fine, right? 100 clients, okay, whatever. And then,
Yeah,
okay, now
yeah.
pushing 400, the pipeline
That's what I
view. I
realized.
love the
This
pipeline
this
view.
isn't
Like,
scalable. Yeah.
yeah, I can see what stage they're in, and I've got the stages in the pipeline, and that was how Asana was. So when I went to Asana, that was the reason, so that I like that visual that works for me.
Hmm.
And so when I saw that TaxDome had that plus all
Hmm.
the other stuff, I was like, okay, I'm not even going to look at anything else. So I
Yeah,
didn't even look at the other ones.
yeah.
Canopy, what's there's another big one. Yeah,
Carbon.
Carbon. Yeah, that's what I thought it was. And
Yeah.
so it's like I knew somebody on TaxDome already. So I
Mhm.
was like, well, if I already know someone on it, that's the person I'm going to ask all my questions to.
Yeah.
So I was like, I just
Well,
need to
that's
go with what I
I
already
was
know.
I was at an event this summer, and a friend who was running a firm for a couple of years, who we had talked and is growing in the way I want to grow, and he's using Canopy, and I said, hey, pull up your Canopy and just walk me through it. Show me what you like.
Yeah.
And it was a lot. It's very similar to Box, and I'm very familiar with Box, and the other things I wish Box had, Canopy had, and I was just like, good, I'm good. And so I literally came home from that event, scheduled a call with the Canopy sales guy, and you know, and then just said, look, I'm looking to switch, but let's do it in November, not
Yeah. Yeah.
not July. I'm too busy right now.
Right.
So
Yeah. Well, how'd October 15th go for you?
Pretty good. I've got, I didn't have a ton of clients, but I've actually still got about 5 left.
Okay. Yeah. I've got
So,
one. They didn't give me their stuff.
two,
So,
two of them are intentional. Like we got a draft K1 and there's a lot of things still waiting and it's going to be late. So they're going to be late. So we paid in. They're good. But a
yeah.
couple of them just never got back. In fact, one just texted me right before this call.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, I totally missed this. I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
you did.
I
Like
had
7
two that
reminders. Yeah.
I had two that I thought weren't going to make it, and one did last minute. Found it last night.
Yeah.
Good friend though, so I was willing to do it for him.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then I had one that bookkeeping is just a mess, so it's not ready yet.
Mhm.
Still waiting for
Yeah.
that to get cleaned up. But other than that,
Yeah. There's a
everything
couple that
went
just
smooth.
aren't done, but these couple that were like, we're done. I'm literally just waiting for you to sign it. It's like,
Yeah.
come on, please. I'd really want to do this. I'll wait till midnight. I'll stay up, but it's like whatever.
Yeah.
Their
Well,
choice.
that's pretty much. I got to wrap up. But anything else
Okay.
you want to share? Biggest
A
piece of
couple
advice
things
you'd give?
yeah. I would say the thing I learned the most is like have good onboarding, right? Because onboarding sets the tone, right? And there were a lot of back and forth I had with clients that I was really like, look, this isn't what I do, but I didn't set that clearly at the
Right.
beginning. So now it's kind of like I feel like I just kind of have to get through this. But so I've really been working on like, okay, this is my onboarding. These are the things we do. This is what I do. This is what I don't. Setting those clear expectations will make it better for everyone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
that's
huge.
one big thing.
Man, I always love talking, Todd. I could keep going for another hour. We
Yeah,
have
no doubt.
sometimes, but I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Appreciate you willing to share and talk about where your firm's at, man.
Yeah, no problem.
All right. Thanks.